Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. In your opening statements, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned something I think bears repeating, and it has to do with the human health risk here and the CDC's position. This is really about the health of the flock. I think we need to continue to restate that so that we focus on the root problem. The root problem, we have to also talk about the economic impact. I think in Minnesota and Iowa, we're talking over the past year somewhere on the order of about $1.6 billion in economic impact. That's at least one report that I read. And the job impact, I think for probably every job lost and as a processor, we lose about 2 more other jobs in the supply chain. So these communities are very hard hit by this, and people are losing their businesses and their mortgages. I want to talk a little bit more about the way that we respond going forward. I contacted my Commissioner of Agriculture, Troxler, a month or so ago. He had done some work, and I think we had some of our Department of Agriculture up in Minnesota trying to help out. And the question that I had for him, and I would like to ask you, Dr. Clifford, is what work are we doing? You'd said that there were some 20 states, and I think you said 500. The worst case scenario is 20 states, 500 houses affected, I guess. Has there been any work done, assuming we're always never going to have enough money to do everything you'd like to do, any work done in trying to create some sort of emergency response network? You wouldn't expect, I mean, in the worst case scenario, if all 20 states affected, then that's a disaster. But having some way to mobilize resources that may be in the states to the hot spots and have that be at least a part of the strategy for dealing with the shortfall in resources that the USDA may have?
Senator, we already do that. Okay, so, and actually in this outbreak occurrence, there have been a number of state personnel moved into the outbreaks area that have assisted from other places all across the country, and we know definitely North Carolina assisted. So we do that. We also have the National Animal Emergency Response Corps, which uses private veterinarians. So that process can be a little slow at times, getting those people back on board, and everybody has to be trained, and you just can't bring them on board and put them in work. They have to go through hazmat. They have to be fit tested for respirators. They have to go through a medical exam because this is very difficult work in the field.
Well, it really related to, I think, a question that Senator Klobuchar asked, and it had to do that what I heard, at least in some of my investigation over the past couple of months of this, is just the time between the time that you suspect that you have an outbreak to the point that you have someone there to authorize the depopulation. There seems to be a lag. So is there a...
There's not a lag now. That was initially. We have, as soon as the presumptive positive, we have somebody there just...
Now, what about the state's responsibilities? I think we have 26 or so depopulation machines in the state. I don't know if that's a high or low number. It seems reasonably high to me. But
the defoaming?
Yeah.
Or the foamers?
Yeah, the foamers, yeah. But, I mean, are there sorts of minimum standards that we're setting up for the states themselves to make sure that they're best prepared?
We will be looking at that for the fall. I've alluded to the fact of trying to find new and better methods. We are considering and working with the industry and the veterinary community of considering closing up the houses and turning off the ventilators and heating up the house, because it's the fastest way. It's probably, while some people may have concerns, it's probably the most humane way to take care of this. So this is what I was alluding to before as far as getting the support.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because you know, I know that it's there is the question on the humane treatment, but if these birds are left in that state for a week or so until you have the approval, it seems to me it's the most expedient and probably facilitates the cleanup. I have one. I want to stay within my time, so I have one question for both Dr. Swain and Dr. Clifford, and it has to do with what more can we do? What constraints have we placed on you, or what things that we can do short of money? I heard that loud and clear. That may make your job easier. Have you given much thought to that? If we could do this or didn't have to do that as a result of decisions we made here in Congress, it could make your lives easier.
Please don't have another sequestration because it will shut us down. And that will be in the middle, as far as research, in the middle of all of the research that we need to do to finish up the vaccination application and studies. And if we have a sequestration, it requires us by law to shut everything down, which means if we have an experiment going, we have to euthanize all the birds, we have to kill all the cultures, we got to lock down all of our high path viruses, which are select agents. We have to follow the select agent rules to contain those, send everybody home. Then if we start back up again, it's the same situation.
I was second to that. We can't send people home and then expect us to respond to an emergency if it occurs.
That goes back to the funding question. Are there, and I agree with that, I think sequestration's awful on every count for every agency. But what about, are there other things beyond that that concern you or things that we should be looking at, or is basically the certainty and the funding you need?
I think those are the primary things. There may be other things, but let us give it some thought, and if there is,
I would encourage you to do that as you're going through the process and working with the states to do everything we can to remove any sorts of hurdles that you don't think add value and they're adding cost and time. Thank you.